Yeah, so when I was here, I think this was just getting installed.
Yeah.
So when you walk, so you can kind of see the variety. So this where it looks more anemic, you have a little bit of Orahona, and then when you get in here, you start to see Dark Star, and I think we have some PG.
And here we try to plant 5 plants for each variety.
And they were separated 10 feet, 8 feet?
6.
7,
6 feet?
6 feet.
6, I think.
And you like this distance?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Because I was doing 10 and it seems a little bit too much.
Too much, yeah.
So 7 is what you guys
Yeah,
do.
this is 7. We got enough space to walk in the middle.
The spacing on a field like this is really good. And then the only thing that we debated is we would have taken our posting down even lower. So we always say the top of the post at 4 feet, and those were done 5 feet.
5 feet.
So I'm 5'7", so you can kind of, right? So that's really
Yeah, I'm
almost
doing
5.5.
mine. They're right about here. So like
That's
4.5 feet
correct.
is where?
That's
Four,
correct. Yeah.
And I always thought I'm a little short, but it works for me. So
Yeah.
you wish that these were a little lower.
No, I mean, and
Or
here
it's
is
not bad.
fine.
Uh-huh.
But right now, everything that we start replacing right now, we start doing it at 4 feet.
Yeah.
And I remember you were building these at a certain cost,
Yeah.
and you had it down to like $30
Yeah.
or something like that. And it was a good cost.
I think it 13, 13 I think.
13?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Wow, that's a good.
So
can't beat that.
we had to just buy more wood for the forms, and it happened to be when the wood prices were high. But we were doing 24 forms,
24, yeah.
but now we have
32.
32
So you're
forms.
still producing these same
we're still-
concrete
yeah.
structures, same length and the same height and everything?
No, we're taking a feet down now.
You're a little shorter.
Yeah.
And how far do they go into the ground?
3 feet.
3
Those
feet.
are 3 feet.
Okay.
So the post you're looking at was in a form that was 8
8
foot,
feet.
and then it was sunk down 3 feet. So
Okay.
you end up with the post out of ground about 5 feet, and then we cut the form down to 7 feet
And now they
because
go 3 down.
and they go
we
3
get
down and
4
they
That's
up.
are 4.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So Leonardo's going to explain their new trellis design. As you can see, what I really like about it is that the wood is above the soil. And so, Leo, tell us a little bit about it. It looks like you use these 6-foot posts.
Yes, I use this to anchor the post. I use this setup. If I use the 4x4 piece of lumber, I sandwich it to 2 of this U-line, U posts, and then at least you have to put 4 screws. To
You use
sandwich
4
it.
screws, 2
Or-
posts, and you
yeah.
make sure that the posts level. Right, so you're going to level it.
Yes, but before you do that, you have to pound this with a post pounder to anchor it to the ground.
And it goes in, what, 18 inches or so? Up to about here? 2
Yes,
feet?
about 18-20 inches.
Okay.
It depends to the type of the soil. Sometimes it's soft, so make it deeper.
Uh-huh. And then how wide is this? What's the width?
So the material I use this U-post 2x4 by 8 and 4x4 by 8. And then the 4x4 by 8 you have to divide it in half, so it's 4 feet. And then the 2x4 you divide them in 3, so it's 32 inches for one piece. You need 2 pieces of 2x4 by 8. And I use how many pieces are there? There are 6 of them.
And so then there's zero waste,
Yes,
right? You just cut them up and don't have to waste any
Cut
material.
them exactly 32 inches each.
Especially with the price of lumber right now, that's smart. That's good to not waste it.
Yeah, don't waste them. And then you have to use deck screws.
How long are they?
2.5 inch, or you can use 3 inches.
Okay, 2.5 to 3 inch. And then the biggest benefit is having the wooden post above the soil line, so that
Right.
way you're not going to get rot.
Right.
And so this will last so much longer.
And you have to use at least 4 deck screws here. 2.5 or 2 inches deck screws. Sandwich to this 4x4.
It's a great design. I like it.
Show us the also on that one down there. You did the cord. How you ran the cord through? Can we look at that?
Oh yeah. And then you have to put so that when the vine goes up here and it shoots some branches, this will help to support the branches.
And I like how you used your rubber hose
Yeah, the rubber hose
to
will
support the
protect
plant.
plants.
So that way
Yeah.
the wire won't break the
Yeah.
branch.
You just need 2 straight line here, and from here to this distance is 7 inches. Same thing on the other side, so that it will look neater.
Yeah, it's efficient. It's
Yeah, I
really
like this
efficient
design a lot.
and easy to put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do it one person by yourself.
Oh yeah, I did this by myself. That doesn't take so long, and you have to at least you have to use 25-gallon pots using this system.
So 25 gallon is the
Yeah,
size of this.
that's
Okay.
the smallest you can use. Don't use 20 or less than 25 gallons.
And how many plants do you put? 4?
I'm planning to put 4 here in each sides, and as you suggested, Paul, I have to put burlap here.
Yeah, I thought maybe wrapping it in burlap would
Yeah.
help a lot, especially around the metal. So during the winter time, you won't get any damage on the plant. Younger plants, younger
Yes,
branches.
and the area roots will attach to it.
Well, I really like this design, so thanks for sharing it with us.
We're up at the 2019 Dragon Fruit Festival up in Irvine, and they're doing an education seminar, just teaching you things. Right here is what they have is an experiment section where they're experimenting with different types of watering. So some of these dragon fruits are getting lots of water and some are getting hardly any water, and they're just doing experiments on how they're growing. They also have 2 different types of trellis systems. So we got a more of a wire system on this side, where they have just a single wood column on the other side. So as you can see, some of these are in different stages of healthiness. Some are doing really well and some are kind of atrophied. So they're basically just doing water experiments and trellis system experiments. And here's one that didn't do so well, like a skeleton. But some of these are really lush. Some have a fruit set. Here's a good clumping of fruit. But as you can see, some are barely making it. More water.
Hey everybody, this is Paul, and today I'm going to show you how I build a permanent dragon fruit trellis. I use concrete, rebar, and 4-inch drain pipe, and I'll show you all the steps, and I'll show you why. I mean, you can see how sturdy it is. I have one of my hybrids here, and these things just don't break. I mean, you can see here it's 4S, and it's just something that's very permanent, a permanent solution, because we get some winds here, and I don't want them to fall over and get top heavy. So you can see here's the older design, Spicy Exotics design, and this is where it's in a hollow 4-inch drain pipe. And what happens is in time they just bend over. And you can see after a few years, I did these in 2019, they almost just kind of flex at the base. So I had to start using a bamboo post to keep them level. But as the plant gets heavier, you can see it just bends more and more and more. And so this is not a good long-term solution. And I don't want to use wood because I just want these to get really large and just hold hundreds of pounds.
So you've iterated these dragon fruit trellises a bunch of times. So what version are you on? How many times have you reassessed how you made them?
Probably like 3 or 4 times. I've tried 3-inch drain pipe, which I thought was a little thin. And I noticed that 4-inch drain pipe is better because I can put 4 cuttings in a pot. So this is a 20-gallon pot, and I put 4 on a 4-inch drain pipe. It seems to work really well. I have some 3-inch drain pipes down there, and they're just too narrow. So that 1-inch larger diameter is key.
Maybe we can put all the parts in the description.
Yeah, we can do that, no problem. And so let's go through the steps and I'll show you how I build these. Let's go get started. Okay, so step 1 is selecting the correct location. So I'm about 7 to 10 feet from other pots. And most of my trellises are about 10 feet apart. Some are about 7 feet, but that's the minimum.
So how deep are you gonna go?
I go about 2 feet. So step one is you want to dig a hole about 2 feet deep. And I expect to use about 100 to 120 pounds of concrete.
Okay.
So let me get this dug and I'll show you the next step. Okay, I have the hole dug and this is my tool of choice here. And what I buy is 1/2-inch rebar at 10 feet. So this is a 10-foot piece. I cut it with a bimetal cutting blade, and then I use it to cut a 6-foot piece, which will be the main spine, I guess you could say, main support, which I'm about to hammer it into the hole. And then these will be the cross beams. So that's why I like to buy 10-foot sections, because I don't have any waste. And then I use 1/2-inch drip line and I sheath it. So that way, you'll see why, because that way I can remove them from the top and interchange them or move the plants. So I have the rebar, I hammer it in until it's about 4 feet in height. Try to keep it centered and level. That looks about good. So it's about 4 foot, 1 inch. So one more hit. There we go. Next up, this is the 4-inch triple wall drain pipe. And I cut this to a 6-foot piece. You can see it's too tall. So now I'm gonna trim it back just a bit. And I usually go 1 inch beyond the rebar. So the rebar is 5 feet in height. So now I'll cut this 5'1". So 61 inches. I'm using that same metal blade. And there we go. Next up, I put a 4-inch cap. And I use this drill bit. It's a unibit. I go straight through. Let that whip you in the face. I try to make it a 90-degree angle. I just eyeball it. Sometimes I go through the cap twice, but usually I just go right under it. And there we go. So now I have that done. Now it's time to get to the concrete. So let me get the concrete ready and show you the next step. So what I like to use is the fast setting concrete, and I'll use anywhere from 100 pounds to 120 pounds per pot, per trellis. And the reason why I like
How many bags is that, like 2?
2, a little over 2, depending on the hole. But usually 2 is plenty. And what I like to do is mix it up really well. It's definitely too wet there.
Yeah, you don't need much. You just need a bucket and some water.
Yep.
And a stick. Nice.
Don't want to breathe it, by the way. It's really bad to breathe the dust. And I like to have it kind of like consistency similar to cake batter.
Like cake meal.
Definitely more on the thinner side. So next I like to fill up the base first. Probably could just dump it. Use the rebar. Just get any of the holes, air hole pockets out of there.
And work it in.
And again, this is fast setting, so it'll set pretty quick. You want to make sure it's nice and level before the concrete sets. That's very important. And it does set pretty quickly. Then I like to use the rebar. Ooh. And that'll kind of help keep it where I want it to. I think in this case, probably something like that. Okay. There we go, nice and level. And you want to check that a few times. And just fill it up. Makes a very cool sound when it plops down. And it takes about 1 bag to fill up this drain pipe. It's around 50 pounds of concrete.
Yeah, once you do this a few times, it gets pretty easy.
Yeah, and you want to pull that rebar and get it in the center. Okay, so I filled it up, and now time is of the essence. So the first step down here is the concrete. You want to make a nice level base. That way it'll prevent any gophers from entering the pot. And you'll see I'll cover this with some dirt and allow the roots to grow into the soil. So having a nice level base is really important. Like that there. Now, I'm gonna double check, make sure it's still level. Yep. Perfect. And now you don't want to wait too long. Before it hardens. You don't want it to harden, that'd be bad. Just put the cap on. And then insert these straight through. And this 1/2-inch drain pipe, drip irrigation line, excuse me, is key because it acts as like a sleeve. And so as it cures in the next hour or so, I'll just turn it like this every so often.
And it'll just form your mold so you can put that in later.
Makes the perfect mold, exactly. Let's make sure it's still level. It's the most important step. Yep. And so now, over here, you can see what it looks like when it's done. So, I've added the dirt. That concrete pad is still under there. And then now, I'm gonna finish the top. So you can see that these will still go in and out after it dries relatively easily. So sometimes it's bent or curved, so you might have to flip it over, but there we go. So you can see how easy it goes back on. You can see for the 20-gallon pot, I like to drill a lot of holes, and I put that nice open center in it. Put it down. And then I like to use this wire mesh. You buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's. Comes in a big 8 foot by 4 foot or something like that. And I think I make 4 out of them on each piece. So I cut them and tie them down with zip ties, and it looks like this over here when it's done.
And then you add the burlap.
Yep. So I like to build the top, and then I add plenty of burlap around it.
Why do you add the burlap?
That way the aerial roots will have something to grab onto. I've seen some people use sandpaper to make it more rough, the PVC, and you can do that as well.
Okay.
But I prefer to just let it be and put plenty of burlap on it. And I just use some larger zip ties, or you could use wire or twine. And there you go. Next step is I like to form a little base of perlite. So I add perlite about 4 inches and then put in potting soil, and it's good to go. And so after a while, I'm gonna redo all these, that's down this whole row, and I'll show you what here's the Laverne pink looks like when it's all said and done. So something like this. And then time, some of the older ones will just get those aerial roots and really just...
Yeah, you have an example of the aerial roots?
There's some here.
You can see how they're going
Some of my
into the
older
burlap.
pots, I've moved most of them, so not in this section.
That's a good example.
Yeah. And there you go. And they're sturdy. They can take a lot of weight, and I don't have to worry about them falling in the winds or anything. And I couldn't be happier. So I'm getting rid of all the white ones, and they're all going to be 20-gallon black pots. And you can see I've probably done 80 of these already, or something like that. 50.
You're experimenting so other people don't have to.
Yep, so that's been working really well for me. I'll never have to deal with rot or have any problems. So there you go.
And the cool thing about this is we actually repurposed some uneven bars that my stepdad had made for the kids that they don't really use anymore. So we were looking at it, and this was just bunch of poles basically in the ground that weren't being used. So we thought, you know what, we'll just transition this over to a really cool dragon fruit trellis system. So let's check out what we got. It does get really hot here in Escondido, so since this is a metal trellis, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it with a little bit of burlap, which will help with the dragon fruit being able to climb up the trellis, as well as maybe minimizing a little bit of that heat in the summertime. So got a little more room. We're gonna probably continue to wrap it as it goes down, but for right now, this should serve its purpose pretty well. All right, so the first one we got here is what we call the Unknown Road, and this has a really interesting history. We actually found this dragon fruit on the side of the road. Paul did, and we looked into a little of the history of this one, and the gentleman that had owned it for like 30 years, and it was growing in his yard for so long that it overtook a shed and almost knocked it over. So we know this is a very old dragon fruit, and it is some sort of white flesh, some sort of undatus, but not exactly sure what to call it, so we call it Unknown Road. But it's very sun tolerant, very hardy, and it would be great here in Escondido. Alright, so the second one we have is also undatus. I have grown one fruit off of this type of dragon fruit. I have it in my yard, but this is a nice cutting that I'm going to gift to my mom and have her set up right here. We did try the fruit. It was really good, pretty good size, nice sweetness, but nothing super special, but also a very vigorous grower and should be really fantastic in the nice warm weather that we have over here. Alright, so up next, this is Dark Star, which is a hybrid Guatemalensis and undatus, and this one is more of a purple flesh, really good, super vigorous. We've done videos on this kind that grows so super fast. Check out some of the videos on our channel. We did a little document of a pretty small cutting growing from basically about 18 inches to a whole trellis in 18 months. So really cool, very vigorous. This is rated as having one of the better tasting fruit and super delicious. Dark Star. Alright, so the last one is Sugar Dragon, and we like to include Sugar Dragon on most of the setups because of the universal pollination factor. And this is a really nice cutting here. It's ready to grow. This is also Guatemalensis. It's a smaller fruit, but very sweet, tastes excellent, and should do really well in the warm weather over here. So Sugar Dragon. This is really exciting. This will be a nice setup in a few years. Should be able to get plenty of trellis coverage, and this is pretty much a full sun environment here in Escondido. So give us a like and a subscribe, and catch you again next time.